Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I see 3 people have joined, of which I know that Nikita has been attending sessions since the first session. I think Shrestha is also returning. Shrestha, have you attended previous sessions? Okay. And Shweta, I think I'm seeing you for the first time. Okay, very well. So Shweta, this is our 4th session this week. So this is the 4th week of problem solving sessions. I think now you are in the 5th week of your course, but this is the 4th week of problem solving. So every week after the course material is introduced to you, the week's course material is introduced to you. We go through a live problem solving session like this every week on Tuesday, and I discuss problems allotted from the previous course runs, and I also invite you to ask any doubts if you have any doubts for the uh, current week's assignment or previous week's assignment, or any other doubt that you might have had in the week's lectures or else related. There is only one catch that I want the answers to the questions which are assigned to you this week, because you will be evaluated on these questions. I'll tell you uh, the background material. I'll tell you what you solve the questions, what study material you should be focusing on, or what additional resources you can access. But it will be limited to that. So how we go about it is, I take questions from the previous runs of this assignment, and I solve those questions. Not exactly solve, because I won't give you the answers, but I'll tell you how to go about solving the questions, and I'll elaborate a little bit on the subject material and the additional references that you will be able to use. Why I do not give out the answers, because it has come to our notice that many of the assignments which were assigned in the previous runs are very similar to the ones which are assigned in the current run. So if I start giving out the answers to the questions, it will be helping you with your assignments, which I do not want. So I hope that is clear. Also seeing new attendees, there is Anjali and Harshali session. I think I'll wait for a few more minutes and see if any more attendees join. Then we'll do a quick attendance. Let's start with today's session. Till then, if anyone has doubts from previous sessions, anything left over that you wanted to ask previously but haven't been able to do so far, you're very welcome to ask. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can even type in the chat box and I'll read your questions.
Regarding the quiz that we are doing, is that considered, that is the only assignment we're supposed to do, or
Yes,
that's it, right? And there
yes,
is
that
the
is,
exam which is going to be in October or whatever. That's it, right?
yes, that's
These
it.
are the assignments on which we are sort of graded in, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And another thing which I just like to add to that, that you should probably know what your grading criteria is. If you go to the course description, at the end of the course description, you can read how you will be graded based on the assignments. I think I can quickly show you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll quickly show you. If you go to this course description, so you can just click onto here, onto your course, and go to this course description. So you will come across this page, which has your course description, and at the bottom of this you see here what criteria you need to fulfill to get a certificate. So you see here, it also mentions how much you need to score on your assignments, or what percentage of assignments you need to complete, and what percentage of your assignment marks form your overall score at the end of this examination. So you can see here your average assignment score should be will be 25% of the average of best 8 assignments you submit out of the total 12 assignments that you will be given in the course. So you are given 12 assignments in the 12 weeks. So 8 best assignments of those 12 will be selected, and 25% of your score, of your overall score for this subject would be made by the score of those 8 assignments. So even if you don't perform very well on 4 assignments, it is okay if you perform good on 8 assignments. Only those 8 assignments will be counted. Although it is advised that you try to do your best in all of the assignments, it's not an indication that you should only focus on eight assignments or 8 weeks course material and leave out the school. Because again, your examination questions or your examination paper would be uh, formulated with all of your course material. It won't be that only uh, eight 8 weeks worth of assignments or 8 weeks worth of course material will be examination. So do your best to go through all of the assignments and try to make the best out of everything you do. But just as a criteria to get your certificate, I think you should be aware that 8 best assignments of the total 12 assignments that you do would count towards your final grade or final score, and 75% of the marks or your score is determined by how you perform in the exam, and 25% is determined by how you do in the assignments. So then final exam, like final score for this assignment will be your average assignment score, which is calculated like this, plus how you score in the exam. So 75% would be your exam score and 25% would be your assignment score. I hope this is clear to everyone, and I hope you all have registered for the exam. So I think the deadline was a few days ago, or maybe got an extension. I don't know exactly the dates, but I hope all of you registered for the exam. Okay. Uh, Anita is asking, so the scores are released only at the end. Yes, you every time you submit an assignment, you get a feedback on which questions you attempted were correct and which questions you attempted were incorrect. But the aggregate score that you'll get only in the end. So at the end of finishing your examination, that is when you'll get your aggregate score. But every week when you submit your assignment, or when the answers of your submitted assignments are released, then you get to see which of the questions you attempted were correct and which you attempted were incorrect. Shweta is asking that can you get the earlier recorded problem solving sessions? Yes, Shweta, you can get earlier recordings of the session. They are all uploaded in YouTube channel, and I think you might have the link also. I think I can show you the link again, just for the people who might have missed it. I can show you the link again. So here, go to your course. Okay. and at the bottom you see here you have this problem solving sessions July 2023. So you click onto this and you can see here you have problem solving session recording. So you just click onto this and you will be taken to this page, and in this page you will have a link here which will take you to the problem solving session lecture. So if you click this link, you'll come to this page. So this is a shared Excel sheet in which you'll have links to the YouTube videos of each week. Uh, so links of problem solving session from each week, and then you'll have a link to a folder. So this folder contains all the presentations and all the supplemental material which I give in the discussion sessions, and these are all the videos of the recordings of the previous sessions. So from this link, like I showed, you can access all the pre-recorded videos. I hope that is clear. Okay, I see several people have joined now. So I think we can start today's session. So let's start. This is the session 4 for the week 4. So we'll be discussing problems based on the material that has been taught in week 4. So in this week, the lectures that you will have covered would include urban reform and managing change, part 1 and 2, visioning for cities, resolving conflicts for managing change, and leadership and team building. In urban reform and managing change, both parts 1 and 2, you would have studied what is urban reform, why it is needed, what are the different domains of urban reform, what comes under the domain of urban reform. You would have studied the concept of managing change, what are the various processes associated to this, what roles do managers play in managing the change, how to best navigate the process of urban reform or organizational reforms or things like that. In visioning of cities, you would have studied what a city vision is, how to formulate it, what are the components that make a city vision, how a vision is different to a plan, what are the key differences between city planning and making a vision for the cities, what is the role of leadership in creating city visions, and how to navigate the process of this visioning. So, what are the steps you can take to build up a vision for a city or for the development of a city? Then, in resolving conflicts for managing change, you would have studied the relation of conflicts with change management, how different conflicts arise, uh, with what kinds of changes, and how you can uh, anticipate and better articulate what conflicts may or may not arise with certain changes. What are the different nature of conflicts that may arise? Then what is the change process and associated conflicts? What are different styles of conflict management? And what are the do's and don'ts which any manager or any person interested in management can follow in order to navigate change management more efficiently. Last, you would have studied leadership and team building. In this, you would have studied the basic attitudes of leadership, what are the different attitudes or different components of attitudes that one should have or are which are ideal to have a good or sound leadership in navigating or formulating any kind of change or any kind of development strategy in any organization or a similar scenario. Then you would have studied a little bit about team building, what are the pros and cons of team building, how to navigate the process, and things like that. So this is what has been covered in this week so far. So now we'll start with the questions. which were assigned in previous sessions. It is possible that you might be assigned questions very similar to the previous sessions. So I won't go into the answers, but I'll tell you the background material and how to go about solving the questions. So let's start with the first question. So first question is, two types of urban reforms envisaged under JNNURM were what? And were given four options: vertical reforms and horizontal reforms, centralized and decentralized reforms, top-down and bottom-up reforms, mandatory and optional. So these are the four options you've been given. So vertical reforms is something which takes place vertically through different levels of organization of any organization. In this case, we are talking about governance system. So maybe the central government, state government, the local government, maybe that kind of reforms. Horizontal reforms are something that uh, only one level of a particular organization experiences the reform process, and not multiple organizations are not multiple levels are a part of it. So does JNNURM focused on vertical and horizontal reforms? Was this the case? Second is centralized and decentralized reforms. So centralized and decentralized reforms, what this means, centralized reforms comes from a centralized system which proliferates from the top to the bottom or through a centralized channel, and then organizations or stakeholders at different level follow that reform, or it is managed by a central body, and the rules and norms of that kind of a reform is dictated by a central body and then followed by other uh, decentralized reforms means that the control of the decision making related to the reform process is allocated to the decentralized body, so not with the central body. So if you talk about urban governance, it won't be with the central government, but it would be decentralized maybe to different states, maybe to different urban bodies, maybe to different urban development organizations, and those particular bodies or organizations would be in charge of taking on the decisions or figuring out the particulars of any of the reforms that are being talked about. Top down and bottom up reforms means top down reform is something which is initiated at the top, so maybe at the central government or maybe at the state government, and then it's introduced further, or it is directed by the top tier to the bottom tier how something or some part of the reform should be carried out. Bottom up reform, on the other hand, is something which is initiated by an organization or a body in the local level, and after that they indicate or they communicate their needs and their vision for that reform, and then that is facilitated with the leadership of the bottom organization but the support of the top organization as well. Mandatory and optional reforms, on the other hand, mandatory reforms are something which is made necessary by some sort of mandate, and those have to be followed. And optional reforms are something which are sort of an advisory or guidelines which do not have a mandate but are considered to be something which should be ideal if followed. But in case of a lack of capacity, or if the organization who is instructed for that reform, if the organization feels that this is not something under their purview or not something which is good for their organization, they have an option to either adopt it or leave it out. So these are mandatory reforms and optional reforms. So this, I hope now all the options are clear to you. Now we will see what JNNURM is and what kind of reforms it might have proposed. So JNNURM, it was a program which aimed at the reform of various functions and services which were performed by the urban local governments. So it was a comprehensive program a comprehensive program, and it's combined several small thematic areas, and it introduced programs, so urban development or urban renewal programs based on all these different themes. This program made some reforms for the governance and functions. Uh, this program made some reforms for governance and functions which were essential for urban local governance, but the funds, uh, but it rendered some of the functions which you can call the mandatory reforms or mandatory functions. It made it essential. If those functions are not performed by the urban local government, there would be no disbursement of the fund. So this was sort of considered a controlling or regulating mechanism by which this program tried to ensure that the mandatory reforms or the mandatory functions or the mandatory governance functions which it wanted the urban local body to perform would be performed by them. Otherwise, the funds for their performance wouldn't be discussed. Apart from these, there were also several provisions for other reforms as well, which could be undertaken by the government or could not be undertaken based on the local context. If the local government feels that this is something that they want to do, they can do it. Otherwise, they can even leave it. It can be based on their institutional capacity, and it can even be based on their convenience. And these were both on two levels, the state government level and the local government level. So this is what the basic comprehensive understanding of JNNURM and the different reforms the JNNURM proposed that I can give. I have also attached the JNNURM document here. So if you want and if you want to go read further what kind of reforms it proposed, and you want to get a better understanding of which might be the correct answer for this, or which kind of reforms JNNURM actually proposed, you can go through this link. So if you just click here, it will take you to this JNNURM document, which has been published by the Ministry of Housing and Urban. So this is this. Apart from that, I have also uh, shared this JNNURM document in our shared folder. So here is the document in the shared folder. So if you want, you can access the shared folder and check out the document as well. This document here as well. If you are because of some reason unable to access the document on Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs website, I have also uploaded it in our shared folder, so you can access access it from there as well. I have also marked here the different reforms that JNNURM has proposed in this document. So here you can see that this is the preamble of JNNURM. These are the objectives which tells what the different objectives of the mission are. So you can see that it focuses on integrated development of infrastructure services. It focuses on securing linkage between asset creation and maintenance for long run project sustainability. So not only for short run but long run as well. Then accelerating the flow of investment into infrastructure services, planned development of cities, including peri-urban areas, outgrowths, and urban corridors. So you might know that a lot of the cities in India made their first urban development document, so their master plan or city development plan, as a part of this JNNURM program. So this is something which sort of spearheaded the city's uh, action of having a planned development of the cities, not only focusing on the urban core, but even including the peri-urban areas, outskirts, and urban corridors in the city. Also, another one of its objectives was renewal and redevelopment of the inner city areas and universalization of urban services so as to ensure their availability to the urban. So these are the key objectives. Apart from that, you can see the institutional framework. So here you can see which are the organizations or bodies of central, state, and local government which were a part of this the institutional framework of the JNNERM, and from this you can get a better idea of whether it was a uh, top-down approach-based reform or a bottom-up approach-based reform, or what kinds of things the JNNERM suggested. Uh, can even see their thrust areas. What are the particular thrust areas in the urban development which this program focused on? And here in the reform agenda specifically, you can see what are the reforms they suggested. So you can see here they suggest mandatory reforms at the state level, which includes things like repeal of the Urban Land Seizing Act, reform of rent control laws, rationalization of stamp duty, enactment of public disclosure laws, enactment of participation law, things like that. So these are on the state level. So mandatory reforms at the state level. Then you can see mandatory reforms at the municipal level. So things like adoption of a modern accrual-based double entry system for accounting, introduction of e-governance, reform of property tax with GIS arrangements, levy of reasonable user charges, internal earmarking of budgets for basic services to urban poor. So you might have heard that a lot of cities started earmarking a particular percentage of land in all of their urban development projects, which would go towards catering the needs of the urban, so towards the need of the people who cannot afford the urban services, but still they deserve to be users of the urban services because they are citizens of that urban area. Then things like provision of basic services to urban poor, security of tenure, and affordable prices, etc. So these are the mandatory reforms at the municipal level. Then there were optional reforms as well. So these are not divided between the state and the municipal level, but these are general suggestions or guidelines of how uh, some of some of it is related to the mandatory reforms and some are additional reforms which are suggested by the JNE. Like you can see here, uh, saw there earlier that there was a reform asking for earmarking a particular percentage of land for development needs of the urban poor. You can see here in this case, it asks to earmark at least 20 to 25% of developed land in housing projects for economically weaker sections and low income groups with the system of cross subsidization. So, what cross subsidization is that if you develop some piece of land, you earmark 20 to 25% of land which you will give or which you will develop for the needs of the urban poor. In this particular case, they are suggesting for housing reforms. In this case, 75% of the land you will develop for MIG or uh, other groups. So HIGs, MIGs and HIGs, so medium and middle income groups and higher income groups, and then you will charge a higher rate from them in order to subsidize uh, the rate at which the people from weaker sections and lower income groups are getting uh, their housing. So they'll have uh, maybe the HIGs and MIGs have will have some amenities which are better than the amenities which are provided to the people of economically weaker sections and lower income groups. But they can pay for more, and then that additional payment would be used to subsidize the housing that will be provided to the economically weaker section and low income group. So this is what is called cross subsidization. So this is what is a suggested reform or an optional reform given by JNNURM. So which suggests that you earmark 20 to 25% of developed land for EWS and LIGs, and you use a system of cross subsidization for financing the housing projects in that area. So this is just one example. You can read more of these. I have attached both the link to this document and I have uploaded it in our share folder also. Then further you can read what the expected outcomes were, what was the coverage and pattern of funding for JNNURM, and several other things. So I hope this is clear to you, and I hope that now you are equipped with all the information that you need to answer this question. Now, moving to our second question for today. So,
Ma'am,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but in the previous class, not previous, the one before the previous class, you told us that you will be sharing with us some of the questions as well, non-MCQ questions, theta type questions. So, could you put some light on it, please?
I do not have uh, not MCQ type questions, but I think you missed the previous session. In the previous session, we solved a few example questions of application of some of the things that we were learning. I can't ensure you that those are the type of the questions which you will get in the exams, because I am only a teaching assistant and I am only here to help you learn the course material and help
Okay.
try to help you get a better idea of it.
Hmm.
If you want a better idea of the questions that you might get in the exams, I suggest you write your question or your query in the discussion forum. So the questions or query that you write in the discussion forum, those are seen by the course instructor themselves.
Okay.
uh, so if you write there, you can directly communicate with the course instructor and they can better tell you that what kind of long answer questions or more subjective type questions that you'll get in the exam.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
cannot really tell you what kind of questions you can expect in the exam because I am a teaching assistant, I am not a course instructor. But in order for you to better understand what
Got it,
subjective
ma'am.
questions you might encounter based on the subject or subject material. I discussed a few subjective type questions in the previous session also, and in today's session also we'll see. I guess I have one example of a more subjective type question which you might encounter either as a part of the examination or as a part of application of whatever you learn here in uh, in an urban environment where you might need to apply this knowledge for our urban governance or development management practices.
Got it.
I hope that is clear. If you really want to further know what kind of subjective questions you might encounter in the examination, I suggest you write to the course instructor in the discussion forum. Um,
Sure, ma'am.
we'll move on to the next question then. So, the next question for today is the main intent to frame citizens' charter of urban local bodies is, and then we are given four options. First, to maintain peace and harmony, to improve the quality of public services, to increase community bonding within citizens, and last, to provide election day. So, what you need to understand here is that Indian citizens are becoming increasingly aware of their rights. So, whatever their rights are there for urban development or whatever. public services or whatever quality of public services they are owed to, they are increasingly aware of all of this, and they have become more articulate, and they don't only expect the administration to meet their demands, but they even want them now to anticipate them and function accordingly. So for this purpose, the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances in Government of India, they initiated the task of coordinating, formulating and operationalizing Citizens Charter. So, what a Citizens Charter is that it represents the commitment of the organization. In this case, the organization will be a government organization. It represents their commitment towards the standard, quality, and time frame of the service delivery which the organization intends to deliver, or is supposed to, or is mandated to deliver to the citizens. It also represents what grievance redressal mechanism that organization has, and it mandates a sense of transparency and accountability on the part of the organization to the citizens by having uh, an accountable system of standard and quality and time frame which can be measured, and a grievance redressal mechanism which the citizens can use to express their grievances, give feedbacks on standard and quality of the services that they are getting, and even feedbacks regarding the time frame of certain service which needs to be delivered to. The guidelines for formulating these charters, as well as a list of what should be done and what shouldn't be done, they are communicated to the various government departments and organizations, and it guides them how to bring out the focus, focused and effective charters, which can guide the citizens to better understand uh, the whole set of services and uh, everything that should be delivered by the organization, in what time frame those should be delivered, what quality or what standard they can expect. And in the case that the quality standards or the time frame are not up to the mark or are not being met by the organization, they can have a grievance redressal mechanism using which they can provide certain feedback, or they can provide, or they can file their grievances with the certain organization. The objective of this charter is to build a bridge between the citizen and the administration. So, the government body or the organization who is in charge of providing certain public services and the citizens who would be accessing or who would be the users of those services, it builds a bridge between both of them so that the organization better communicates what services they will be providing, what standard can be expected, and within what time frame can be expected. The citizens know what to expect from the organization, and in the case that the organization does not measure up to their promises, the citizens can express their grievances and provide feedback to the organization. So this, in a sense, it streamlines the administration of the particular services that the organization has provided, and it can ensure that it is in tune with the needs of the citizens. So this is what uh, the Citizens Charter intends to do. What it basically is, it is a document of commitments which are made by the government organization. So the organization makes commitments that these are the services we'll provide, this is the time frame within which we'll provide them, or these are the citizens to whom we'll be providing it, and n number of things which are the particulars of any service the government organization is providing. That those n number of things are communicated in the form of this document of commitments, and this is always in respect to some particular service or some particular scheme that is being delivered by that particular organization. This charter clearly identifies that service which should be provided, uh, uh, and it clearly communicates what is its mission and vision related to that service. It should list all the services which would be made available through various agencies. So not only that particular organization, but if the organization is working in tandem with some other organization, it also clarifies the information regarding to that as well. Some charters even give out detailed information of business transacted by the organization, which uh, can be a part of some public services which it is providing. I have given you an example of a charter. If even from this you are not really able to understand what the intent of a charter, citizens charter is, I have given you an example. So this is a citizen charter uh, which has been developed by the Urban Development Department of Government of NCT Delhi. So what are the development services which the Urban Development Department provides to the citizens, and what are the schemes they are following, what citizens can expect from them, and the grievance redressal mechanisms that uh, the department provides. All these are listed in the Citizens Charter. You can just click on through to this link and see this document here. So you can see it is a citizen charter which has been developed by the Urban Development Department, Government of the City of Delhi. You can see here in their objectives they have mentioned that the Urban Development Department GNCT of Delhi is concerned with the matters relating to regularization of unauthorized colonies, water supply, sewage disposal and sanitation, urban poverty, NULM, municipal bodies, and SNA. So you can see here they have uh, articulated very clearly that which are the matters which come under their purview, or which are the services which they will be providing to the citizens of NCT of Delhi. As it is a development department, they might have a lot of other responsibilities assigned also, but these are some of the responsibilities which they take responsibility of, or which they provide a document of commitment for. So these are some of the objectives which they are committed to providing to the citizens of NCT. And then for each of these objectives they detail out what the citizens can expect. So for unauthorized colonies branch, the services that unauthorized colonies can expect are first the regularization of unauthorized colony, and then you get the time frame till 31st December 2017. All the unauthorized colonies will be regularized by this department. Then the development work in unauthorized colonies. It is a continuous process. So for this, they do not have a time frame. So for the thing which they do have a time frame, they have mentioned. For something which they don't, they have just written it as a continuous process. Then again, they have mentioned that this cell does not have a direct interface with the public, so there is no scope for the public directly giving feedback or expressing their grievances. But then they have mentioned how public can express their grievances, or can make their grievances known to them for redressal. So they have written that, however, their grievances received through the PGMS or otherwise are redressed on priority. So PGMS is the public grievance mechanism which they have in as a part of government of NCT of Delhi. So all of the grievances regarding this particular objective can be uh, filed or can be submitted through the PGMS system which they have. So as you saw here, even though this organization in themselves do not have an interface to obtain grievances or feedback. They have mentioned another organization which works in tandem with them, which can enable the citizens uh, to uh, to express their grievances and different. Similarly, for water, we have the different organizations which they work with in related services related to. They have mentioned their names that these are the different uh, departments of the government which they work with. And they have even mentioned what government or what website they should access. So this is Delhi Jal Board's website or Delhi Jal Board's grievance redressal system, which they can access in order to file any grievances related to services of water provision in the city. So this is that. Then similarly, you can see Trans Yamuna Area Development Board with them how they are working and what are their commitments. Similarly, they have created Delhi Urban Development Authority. It is that how they are working with municipal bodies, how they work with direct bodies, etc. What they are doing for basic services of urban poor. That also they have mentioned. And for further details and actions which they are taking, they have mentioned here. Similarly, following the JNNU-RM program, how which objectives they will be fulfilling, they have provided information, linked to that information here, related to the National Urban Livelihood Mission, the NULM, what they are doing. They have provided details related to that here, and all of. So you can see this is just one example of a citizens charter which has been published by the Urban Development Department of Government of NCT Delhi. And you can saw that how the government body or the organization communicates their commitments and how it provides mechanism for feedback and grievance redressal. I hope it is clear to you now what the main intent of Citizens Charter is, what it intends to do, and I hope you can answer this question. Next question. So the next question for today is identify the correct statement related to a plan document. And you are given four options. Objectives are a part of policy documents, while vision is its subset. Vision and objectives are both sides of the same coin. Objectives are ultimate goal, while vision is the aspiration of the city. And the last option is objectives are measurable targets, while vision is the intent of the. So I'll tell you what objectives are and what a vision is, and by understanding both of them, I hope that you can uh, get an understanding of which option of this question is correct and what a city's vision is and what objectives are. So a city's vision is a collective wish to grow and make a better future. So this can be a this is a collective wish. So it is a wish not only of the urban governance, so the urban local governance or the urban development authority, or just for the citizens, but it's a collective wish. So it should be a wish of the citizens, the urban development authority, the urban local body, and everyone involved. So all the stakeholders should have a collective wish for growth and making a better future for the city. So that is what a city's vision is. It is an aspiration for greater quality of lives of the citizens of the city. It is sharing of a common dream between all of the citizens and the other stakeholders involved. It is aimed at making and contributing for betterment of the present citizens of this city and even for the future generations. So a vision is something which is more far-sighted. So it looks to fulfilling the current needs of the city, but also looks to fulfilling the needs of a generation or a population which might inhabit the city at some later point of time. Also, what it is a roadmap for policy and development. So it provides a base work or a base layer building on which certain policies and development programs for the city's development can be made. So it provides a direction or uh, a guiding pathway or a vision, as its name is. It can provide that to the urban local bodies or the urban development authorities or even the participating citizens and stakeholders. It can guide them towards what policies they need in order to develop the city or develop different programs and policies in order to fulfill their present needs and even the needs for the future generations which might inhabit the city. This is what a city's vision is. Planning governance objectives, on the other hand, are a little different from the city's vision. They are while a vision is a broad perspective or a base layer on which you build up, objectives are very specific. So, objectives have 5 qualities which can be abbreviated as SMART. So, objectives are specific, objectives are measurable, objectives are attainable, they are reasonable and time bound. So, specific is something which will be related to one specific thing. So, specific maybe if you want to develop certain transport infrastructure, so maybe some kind of road or some kind of bridges, the development objectives will clearly mention what kind of road or what kind of bridge or in what area or for what purpose, for what kind of traffic needs, what kind of traffic volume, everything which will be specifically mentioned in the planning objective or governance objective. Measurable, you can measure what the objective wants to achieve. So, uh, going back to the infrastructure or road infrastructure, so n kilometers of road or this bridge, n number of bridge or bridges should be made at this part. So you can measure what traffic maybe in terms of traffic volume. So and this number of roads for or roads to accommodate this number of traffic volume should be there. So there should be some measurable component to the objective. So objective first are specific and then they have a measurable component to them. So you can actually measure what amount of work or what amount of development needs to be done. Third, it should be attainable. So objective shouldn't be something which is unattainable at this point of time or at a later point of time. You plan it for a particular time frame, and within that time frame and within the particular resources that the city has, resources maybe in terms of physical resources or maybe in terms of monetary resources, it should be attainable. Whatever objective you have, it should be attainable within the time frame and within those resources. Fourth is that it should be reasonable. So the city shouldn't follow a vision which is not reasonable for the city. It should follow something which is actually reasonable, which actually has been evolved from rational reasoning of the needs or demands or wishes of the citizens and has a commonality. It shouldn't come out uh, of something which is very far beyond the uh, needs or wishes or capabilities uh, of the uh, citizens or the stakeholders of the city. And last, objectives are time bound. So objectives are framed in a way that you can even identify or define that within this time frame this objective should be completed. So, with every objective, you have a specific time period also. While city's vision uh, can or cannot have a time frame. All these measures, So specificity, measurability, attainability, reasonability, or time bound are not some things, are not the things which have to be true for the vision. It can be true or cannot be true even, but these are some things which necessarily have to be true for planning or governance objectives. I hope this is clear. So, summarizing, vision is a broad statement of collective wishes, while objective follows specific rules. So, the specific rules are it has it is specific, it is measurable, it is attainable, it is reasonable, and it is time bound. A vision is crisp and has one theme or one direction, while the objectives are multiple and they have multiple thematic areas. A vision leads to making of scenarios that in this scenario city wants to do this, or in this scenario city wants to do that, or the city wants to proceed with its development in such a way that this would be the scenario of the city in the future or in the recent times. While objectives, they lead to formulation of programs and projects. So in order to fulfill that scenario, what are the programs and projects we need to undertake? Those are the things that are formulated by the objectives. Vision is a part of policy and plan documents, while objectives are a part of plan documents. So vision is a part majorly of policy documents, but can even be incorporated into plan documents, while objectives are the part of plan documents, not policy documents. So policy document is something that the city wants to do, and plan documents is something which communicates that how the city will. So vision tell what the city wants to achieve, and objectives tell how the city will achieve it. Vision comes from public consultation. So public consultation is essential because it helps the city identify what is the collective wish of the city, while objectives are further detailing out of those wishes or needs. So public consultation is a part, but more important in this case is the technical analysis. So uh, this is because whatever public might wish might not be attainable, might not be reasonable, might not be physically possible. So public consultation although is a part of objectives also, technical analysis is more further required in order to uh, finally formulate some uh, objectives which are accomplishable. So these are the key differences between the vision and objectives. So I hope it is clear to you now what the vision is, what the objective is, and I hope you can answer this question as well. Moving on to the next question. So the next question for today is that the correct sequence of behavioral changes or behavioral change during an organizational reform is what? Uh, in the question, you are given four uh, option or four stages of organizational reform, and using that, you are given four different sequences. So the four options which are there are denial, resistance, exploration, and then commitment. These are the uh, four stages of organizational reform or organizational change. So the thing which you need to know here is that uh, people are an integral part of the organization. Organization is formed uh, with people as its units, and whenever an organization faces some kind of reform or some kind of change, there is always a possibility that people can react against the change for a wide variety of reasons. These reasons might include that they fear what is coming with the change, so the fear of the unknown. They might This might happen because they have a lack of information that how the change will occur or how the change can influence them, and there might even be misinformation about some of the negative impacts of the change, or about their capacity to deal with the change and things like that. Then they can have a threat to their status, so the present status might get changed with the incoming change, so that can be a reason why people can react against the change. There can be a situation where people are unable to perceive any benefits of the change that is occurring. They might be afraid of failure of assimilating with the change, or failure of adopting with the change, or fear of failure of being able to upscale or increase their capacity in order to be able to work in tandem with the change that the organization is facing. Another thing is that they might have low trust in their organization, that with the change, their organization might not keep their needs uh, or their interests in mind, and they might let the trust or needs of the people down, and that can be a reason that people can react negatively towards change. There can be strong peer group norms, uh, which might uh, push people to react against a change, or they can even be bound by custom. So they have been following something from a very long period, and now they're bound by a custom that this is the way in which things have been followed for a very long time, and this is how things should be followed. And this is in a way that they believe that is best for the organization and their well-being, and they do not want to change that. So these are just some things which can uh, uh, which can uh, enable people or make people react against a change, or may not want the change to occur in their organization. So in order to better understand this process of organizational reform, or how an organization or a manager can navigate this organizational reform process, you would have been introduced the Scott and Jeffs transition grid. So the Scott and Jeffs transition grid, it showed four stages through which people of an organization go through when the organization is facing a change or an organizational reform. These change range from negative reactions in the beginning, uh, like seeing the change as a threat, to then further going through the process of the change, and then developing positive reactions by seeing the change as an opportunity. So this is the Scott and Jeffs transition grid, which you might have studied. So the grid is formed by two axes. The x-axis shows you the timeline of the change, so from past to the future. So from past, when the change was not introduced, or till the from the beginning when change was introduced, to the present situation when the organization is navigating the change, and then to the future when the organization will reach a point when they have fully gone through the process of change or the reform. The y-axis shows you uh, the integration of the reform, uh, uh, or the seeing of the change through the lens of the change coming from an external environment, or focusing on the external environment of the change, or focusing on your internal environment, or yourself, of how the individual or the self will navigate or process the change or reform that is taking. So this is the Scott's and Jeff's transition grid. It is based on the grief curve, which you might have heard. Grief curve, which is developed by the psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So she earlier she developed the curve, the grief curve, which told you about the process of dealing with something which has caused grief to a person. So that was related to the psychological process related to encountering and going through the process with grief. Similarly, based on her work, Scott and Jeff, two researchers, they developed this transition grid to analyze how any organization goes through change or some sort of reform, and how what kind of stages you can expect to come with that reform process, and how to navigate that process, how to better anticipate what changes might come at an individual's level, what kind of psychological processes they might feel or they might undergo, and how, as a manager of that organization or that reform, or how a member of an organization or an urban government body, how you can navigate that process. So the first part comes at the beginning of the introduction of the change or the reform, which is denial. So denial is the stage in which the feeling of change doesn't easily sink in, and the individual tries to ignore the change completely, as if no change has been introduced at all. So this comes from the ease of not accepting a difficult situation which has arisen, and instead of just trying to avoid or just trying to have a psychological tendency to avoid the acceptance that there is some transition or some change which is on the horizon and which is going to. So, in this case, as a manager or as a person who is working with a certain team which might come across this transition process, what you want to do is that uh, if any of your team are in denial, you want them to move as quickly to the next phase as possible. You want to help them to understand uh, that what is really true opposed to what they wish were true. So if they wish that the change is not coming, that is not true. The change is coming, and what they should expect from. So you can communicate with them and make sure they understand why the change is happening. They understand the negative implications that might happen if the change doesn't occur. You can even ask them that if they have any alternatives to making this change, if they think that this is not something uh, which is good for the organization or good for the objectives that the organization needs, what alternatives that they can suggest. You can even ensure that they know what is expected from them in particular going forward with the change. You can find out what they know about the change or what they don't know, and if you find that there are some gaps in their knowledge, you can fill in the blanks for them. You can even inquire uh, about how the change is making them feel on a personal level. If they have some insecurities about the change, if they have some uh, negative connotations related to the change, if they have some misinformation which they might know, which you can clarify, those things also you can discuss with your team. So this is the stage which is referred to as denial. Next stage, so after denial comes the stage when they can't deny the change anymore, when they know the change has arrived. So they can't just live with the delusion that it is not there, because now they have to accept the fact that the change is here, and this is something which is happening. Then comes the stage of resistance. So during the resistance stage, it starts with fear. So it grows out of a fear of the change or fear of the negative consequences of the change to the particular individual. So it might be fear. It might be fear of not being able to assimilate with the change, fear of maybe losing their job, fear of maybe failing to upskill themselves and things like that. So it starts with fear or the negative consequences of the change, and then that fear turns to anger. So it turns to anger towards the organization or towards the management or towards the people in charge who are in charge of taking care of the needs of the members of the organization. So in case of fear and anger taking over, then the uh, members of the organization start to resist the change. So this is the stage which is called resistance. So what a manager or someone in charge of an organization or a team, what they can do is that they should acknowledge how the people feel first. You should acknowledge how the situation is making them feel, and you should try to help them move beyond blaming others. So beyond blaming the organization uh, for what can or cannot occur to them, you want to help them move beyond that. So what you can do is you can ask what steps they can take now to help manage the change better, what they what they want from the organization in order to them them also navigating the change better, and the organization also being able to take care of their needs better. Also, you can try to acknowledge their feelings toward the change, how they are feeling, what grievances they might have, the anger they feel. Is the anger justified? Is it not justified? Are they fearing something which is not going to occur, or are they falling prey to some uh, elaborate scenarios which might or might not occur, and they haven't even uh, tried to assimilate with the change and just have assumed that the change is going to affect them? It's like that. You can even try to ask what they think the future looks like for them, and you can help them encourage in the ways in which they can navigate the change in a positive way. You can uh, even encourage your team members to talk with people in your team who are positive about the change. So there will always some people who would resist the change, but there are chances that your organization might have some people who are not resisting the change, but who have a positive outlook on the change or the reform which is occurring. And you can even put those members in charge, not in charge, but you can sort of guide them uh, to uh, talk to or communicate with the people who are more afraid or more angry with the changes occurring, and they can encourage those team members to look at the positive sides of the changes, or to look at the opportunities that the change will bring for the people who are resisting the change. So after this anger, after this deliberation of the changes that are going to occur, how it is going to affect them, maybe some input from your manager or from your peers, that what opportunities lie ahead, or that this is something uh, which changes something which has to come. They cannot resist it. The change is something which has to come to the organization. They might experience some sadness, but with this sadness, they come to a stage of acceptance that the change is here to stay, the reform is here to stay. It cannot be resisted, it cannot be stopped, and the only option for them is to try to assimilate with the change, try to find opportunities for themselves, how to move forward with the change that is going to be introduced. So from this they go on to acceptance, and once they accept that the change is there, and they have this task for exploring opportunities for themselves, there comes a sense of relief. So after experiencing this sense of relief, they start exploring what opportunities this change holds for them, what interests they might have. Uh, they start to build up coping mechanisms or adaptive mechanisms in order to assimilate with the change. So, in this stage, what you can do is you can help people to explore the change from different perspectives. So, one perspective might not fit all of the members of the organization. Some might need to maybe switch their roles, some might need to upskill themselves, some might need to change departments, some might to redefine their role in the position which they were doing or they were taking care of. So you can help the people explore the change from different perspectives. You can ask them how they think that they can make a difference towards the change. So based on their convenience, their acceptability of the change, how much they are willing to learn or upskill or build their capacity, what difference they can make. You can ask what they would like to create from this change, if they would like to build something better for the organization, if they want to upskill themselves, if they want to upskill the organization or some related infrastructure or something. You can ask about that as well. You can ask what the future will look for them in the organization as well for the organization also. So based on the change that is coming, how the particular individuals can change themselves and how the organization will change when the reform is assimilated. You can even encourage them to explore what opportunities are for them, for the organization. Are there chances for them to upskill themselves and maybe further in the promotion ladder or something like that? Is there some chance for that? You can explore that as well. So, with these explorations, there comes interest in the individuals, and with interest, uh, there comes liking towards the reform that has occurred. And from this, they move on to the commitment stage. This is the stage during which individuals are re empowered. So, uh, maybe the capacities or interests which they might not have had in the beginning, they are made aware of their interests or their opportunities that they might exploit. They are given opportunities for upskilling, for capacity development, and things like that, and they are re empowered to accept the new methods or processes that come with the transition or with the reform and with the new roles in the organization or with the transformed roles in the organization with the reform. So, in this stage of the transition, you want to encourage each of your team members to focus their time and energy where they can make a difference. You can ask them how they will know they have been successful with the change. So, have a measurable unit or measurable criteria where they can actually see that they have actually assimilated with the change. They have maybe built their capacity, they have maybe reached a particular goal for themselves, and they have been successful with the change. You can help them identify a reward for themselves that has come to them as a process, as an outcome of this process of change, and you can ask them what long-term opportunities are there for both themselves and the organization as this change is assimilated. So these are some things which you can do as a part of the commitment process. So I thought that we can do an example to understand this better. So I'll give you an example of a change or a transition that is occurring uh, into an organization, and based on that you can tell me uh, what steps as a manager of that change or a person who is leading a team in that department, what steps you can take in each of the stages of introduction of that change in order to uh, efficiently navigate the process of that change. So the example we are taking here is the transition to a GIS-based development plan preparation in an urban development authority body. So you have a team which is tasked with preparation of development plans. So earlier you were using plan preparation methods which did not involve GIS based plan preparation techniques, but now you will be tasked with integrating GIS based development plan preparation techniques. So this is something which which your organization or your team will have to transition towards. So the transition objective would be to transition to GIS based systems for development of plan preparation. And then similar to what we discussed, you would have four stages. The first would be denial, then resistance by your team members, then exploration, and then commit. So how will you navigate each of these four stages? We will start with the first stage, which is denial. So anyone can answer. Please let me know what you can do to navigate the stage better in order to help your team get over the stage of denial that your team is going to have to transition to a GIS based development plan preparation system. Anyone can answer? Please go ahead.
Initial lack of knowledge to equipping them with the technical way of handling it.
Okay, I accept that they might have a lack of knowledge, but right now they are in the stage where they are denying the change. So they are not ready to accept that this is something which they will have to do. They don't even think at this point that they will have to transition to a GIS based system. They think that this is something which has been introduced, but this might come and go, and they will continue working with the processes which they have, and they are not going to transition to a GIS based development system. So in this situation, what do you do?
No idea.
Okay, Dhirav is saying no idea. Anyone else? Shweta, Shrestha, I see Nidhi, Anjali.
Equipping with technical know-how?
No.
No.
Right now, they are not even accepting that this is some kind of reform or transition that they will have to do. You will tell them the technical know-how when they accept that okay, this is something which we will have to do, and now we want to learn how to do it. Then you let them, you'll equip them with the technical know-how. But at this point, they think that they won't have to transition. They'll just keep on working with the non-GIS based development system. They won't transition. They won't change their ways. They'll just continue working however they were working earlier. So this is the stage you are at right now. First, you have to make them accept that this is the transition which is coming, and they have to accept it in order to be a part of the organization, in order to continue working with the organization in the way to fulfill the organization's objectives. How will you do this? How will you help your team get past the denial stage?
Open discussions
Yes. Open
about
discussions about what?
basically about their fears, about maybe the extra workload that may happen, etc., etc.
Okay.
Mm. Hand holding is what would be needed, but I don't know whether it comes here or in the next stage.
So first thing you can do is that you can do open discussion. So what will you discuss in this uh, time or in this stage? If you want me to remind you, I can just remind you that as a manager, in general, not particular for this example, but in general, what you can do is that you can make sure that they understand why the change is happening.
Yeah.
You can make sure that they understand the negative implications of the change not happening. So, what negative things can occur if the change doesn't happen. Uh, you can ask them if they have alternatives. You can ensure that they know that this is something which is going to happen and what they can expect from this going forward. You can find out about how they feel towards the change. So these are the some things that you can do in general at the denial stage. So in this particular stage, what you can do, can anyone articulate based on this?
If you are not openly speaking on speaking terms, so we can go on a one-to-one private discussion and let them know what are their fears they are facing or what are the problems they are facing, so we can help them out.
Okay, so open discussion about their fears and what else?
The problems they are facing.
Okay, the problems they might face. So the problems will come only after you communicate to them what the change is going to happen and it is going to occur for them and how it's going to affect them. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to tell them that this is a change that is coming and it is going to affect them at individual level, and this is what they can expect from it, and after that you can start discussing fears or problems. Another thing which you can tell them, that if they continue, like I'm saying that it can this is a possibility that they might continue to follow their earlier ways of development of the plan. They might not want to adopt the new way. So in that case, you can tell them what will be the negative implications if they don't transition to the GIS based development uh, plan. So we can write that you can tell them negatives or negative implications if the if the change doesn't happen. And can anyone guess or tell me what might be the negative implications if your team does not incorporate the GIS based plan preparation method?
The entire system gets affected. So if there is one individual that's not working, then you may need to ask them to leave that particular team.
Okay. So first thing which will happen is you won't, like you said, the entire system gets affected. Why it will get affected? Because you won't be able to meet your goals or the goals that your team or your particular organization have been assigned. So first thing or first negative implication will be that uh, there will be inability to meet goals or objectives. Okay, so you want your team, if they don't integrate with the new GIS based plan preparation method, you won't be able to meet the goals or objectives that have been set for your team or for your organization. Because with the change or with the reform, your goals, your team's particular goals, or the goals or objectives which the individuals need to fulfill, they are also going to change. So if they do not do it, the particular goals or objectives will not be met. So in case of GIS based development plan preparation, it might be that uh, by integrating GIS based development plan, they want a e-governance element with the plan preparation, or they might want a more integrated approach with the ICT, or they might want to integrate with other different systems which follow a GIS based plan preparation pattern. But if you keep following your earlier plan preparation methods, you might not be able to meet the goals or objectives which your organization wants you to do. So this is something negative which will occur if you do not, if you keep denying the change, if you do not accept that this is something which your organization has to change. Okay. Uh, any other negative implication which might come? I think Anita said one, which is loss of jobs. She said, I think you might have to tell them that if they don't assimilate with the change, they might have to leave. So this is another very real possibility, or a very real negative implication which can come if they do not follow with the prescribed reform. Any other uh, suggestions anyone has about the negative implications? Okay. Another thing is that there might be this continuation of funds that your team might be getting. So, a lot of the times these days we see that urban development programs or projects, or even organizations and teams, a lot of the work that goes on is project based work. So you get funds allotted with a particular project, and if you are unable to meet the goals or objectives of the particular project, the funds for the project are discontinued. So this is the fund related to meeting the objectives also, and fund related uh, or fund which goes towards paying your salaries even. So there is a real possibility that the funds towards which is coming towards the particular project which needs you to transition to GIS uh, system, uh, that fund might be discontinued. Okay, so this is another negative implication. Okay, so we can have open discussions about fears and problems. Uh, what another thing which you can do? One more thing. Anyone can say?
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay. So one other thing that you can do at this point is that you can clearly communicate to your team members uh, what is expected of them going forward. Okay. This is something you can do. You can tell them what is expected of them going forward. So this is the change which is occurring, and maybe you should uh, you should install this software, or you should upgrade your uh, system in order to be able to use it, who you can talk to. Maybe you can talk to the IT department in regards to that, what resources you can access, what is expected of you of or from one particular person. So in one-to-one discussions, these things can come up. So for each particular member of the team, you can discuss what is expected from them, uh, how they can contribute to this particular change. Okay, these are the things which you have gone through so far. Now you should be expecting some resistance from the team, knowing now that this is something which they have to accept whether they like it or not. Like, they do not have an option of denying the change, they have to accept it. So obviously in this case there will be some anger, some resentment, some fear from your team, and they will try to resist this change. They will try to maybe resist through some organized protest, or maybe they would resist by non-cooperation, or a number of other methods they might follow, and they would try to resist the change or resist the reform that is occurring in your organization. In this case, what are the steps that you will take? Anyone? Anything? What you can just say whatever you feel is the correct answer. It's okay even if you answer incorrectly, but you should at least attempt.
Yeah, so I think we can, I can discuss with them some case examples, or maybe kind of go to or visit some similar scenarios where the same technology has been adopted, and discuss the results and how it has helped.
Okay, so you can show them uh, best practices, maybe we can call it, or successful adoption scenarios. You can discuss these things with them, that this is something which is possible. It is not only that all your fears or whatever you think negative is going to happen will happen. You can tell them. Another thing which is very similar to this is you can encourage other team members who have a positive outlook. So what we are seeing here, that some team members, they have some anger, some resentment. This is because they do not have a positive outlook on the change that is occurring. They have a negative outlook. They think that this change is going to affect them negatively, and that is why they are resisting the change. So in this case, it is possible that you might have some team members who have a positive outlook, and you can encourage them to go and talk to the team members with the negative outlook, and try to convince them, try to show them the opportunities for growth, and try to tell them or communicate to them that assimilation with the change and successful adoption of the change is possible. All of their fears or whatever negative they are thinking, everything is not going to be true. There will be challenges. You should not lie to them or uh, make them false promises. You should communicate very clearly that there will be challenges, but it is possible to overcome the challenges. So maybe we can write. In this scenario, maybe people who have some prior knowledge of GIS and can tell that it can be learned with some effort. Okay, so your team might have some people who have some prior knowledge of GIS, maybe not working enough knowledge that they can actually uh, start integrating the GIS based development plan preparation, but they might have some prior knowledge of GIS and they can tell the other people that it is something which can be learned. They just need to put a little effort. Maybe they can tell them that having this skill might actually be good for them. They might upgrade their skills by being a part of this change. If you encourage the people with the negative view to talk to the people who are more positive about it, you can actually curb their fears. You can help them gain a better perspective on the change that is coming. You can help them resent the changes a little less and help them show a path where they can navigate the change and come out better on the other end. Anything else? The first thing here which you should do is you should acknowledge their fears or any other uh, feelings that they might have towards this situation. What else? What else you can do? Yeah, another thing which you can do is to ask them what steps the organization can take to help manage the change better. So, can you suggest some changes or some steps which the organization can take? Imagine that you are a person or you are a team member of this team who is having to undergo this change. So, can you suggest uh, what are the what are some steps that the organization can take, or what are some key points of discussion which you can have a discussion with the team members, or that the organization can take these steps to manage the change better?
Equip the team with new knowledge.
Okay, so we can write training or capacity building. Okay, just for that, someone's writing chat box, I think. Anjali is saying hand holding in terms of training. Yes, we wrote that training. That's a good answer. What else? What else you can discuss with your team? You can discuss if they need training or capacity building. What else? You can ask if they might have some additional infrastructure requirements to navigate the change.
What about financial benefits for them,
Okay. So,
or support at least for new
okay.
equipment or something?
So maybe additional support, maybe financial or anything else. What else? Maybe you can discuss time requirements. What time frame they are seeing at, or what they think is a good time frame which can help them, which can give them enough time to actually get adjusted to the new working environment or new working workflow. Anything else? Okay, you can even discuss uh, redefinition of their roles and responsibilities. So you can check what amount of work or what amount of output one particular individual can provide. Is there need for more people in the organization? Is there need for more manpower? Or is there need for redefinition of the roles? One person who was good at something, maybe with the new system they can do another thing better. So these kind of conversations also you can have in order to curb the resistance, in order to tell them that what their fears are, they will be addressed to. You will make time for them, you will provide them with appropriate infrastructure and appropriate support. You will provide the training and all the capacity building that they need in order to move forward with this change. So these are all the things which you can do as a manager or as a person in charge of an organization undergoing a reform, and they are at the stage where they are facing resistance from their team members or the members of the organization who are a part of this reform. Let's move on to the next phase, which is exploration. So exploration, as you might know, you might remember from our discussion just now, that this is a phase where they have gone past the resistance, they have reached acceptance that the change has come, they have to accept it no matter if they want or not. They cannot resist the change, they cannot will the change to go away. It is going to happen, and the best case scenario for them is to accept the change and try to maybe upskill themselves, try to redefine their roles, try to fit into the new system and make use of the system to both their and organization's advantages, and see more opportunities both for themselves and the organization as they assimilate this new change. At this stage, how can you make the best of your teammates' attitudes or uh, uh, their view towards this exploration of the new system and the new? What can you do in order to ensure that each of your team member or all of your team are making the best use or best use of the opportunities that come with the transition, and everyone fits correctly or fits rightly in the roles that might be assigned to? What can you do at this stage?
Resource support, technical infrastructure, and maybe if needed also something from a very emotional human resource kind of a support.
Okay, so uh, can provide resource support, but for what?
technical resource, infrastructure, all that add on so that they can upskill themselves.
Okay, but just randomly providing resources to anyone who is asking about resources, or anyone is demanding for something, is not actually a good or appropriate use of resources. As I mentioned, this is the stage when you are exploring the best fit for your team, where they fit in the best role, and you are also exploring the best fit of the new system that is being explored. So I understand you have to provide resources for support, but you have to make sure that the best fit for both your team and for the new system is being ensured. In order to ensure this, what are the steps that you can take?
So by resource, I mean essentially training also. I mean, because
Okay,
that's the resource you're supporting from the organization point of view to those who
okay,
to the employees. So something like that.
okay. So provide resources, support, maybe mentoring. Okay, maybe mentoring in order to ensure that uh, your organization is making the right choice, maybe with the right GIS resources, maybe with the right workflow system, uh, right people are assigned to the right roles and things like that. So maybe you can get some resource support and mentors who can help you better explore the way. What else? So first thing you can do, that you can ask individuals vision, ask about individuals' vision of how they can contribute to the change. Okay, uh, so maybe their particular work, which like even in the GIS based plan preparation system, there might be different roles. Some might want to work with a particular module, others might want to work with a different module. You can ask them particularly, and you can see how they want to contribute to the change. So after this, after you have actually asked and confirmed the individual's vision or individual's maybe best suited attributes for the job, then you can start exploring what resource supports and what kind of mentoring. Maybe you can even, in order to actually make them at the exploration stage, you actually want them to become interested and start liking the change that they will have to do. It shouldn't be just enduring the change somehow, but you should be encouraging the change, or encouraging your team members to actually like or want to work with the change. So in this case, you can maybe encourage people to explore what opportunities they might have in the future. Okay, so it can be maybe after learning GIS, maybe they might have better opportunities to work within the system. They might have a chance for a promotion or things like that. Or they can maybe contribute more meaningfully to the role which they were contributing earlier and things like that. So these all come in the exploration stage. Last is the commitment stage. So at this point, we assume that your team members have started liking the work. They have found that in learning they're actually getting better opportunities. They have started liking this workflow, and now you want to actually make them committed to assimilating this change into their goal. They have explored their opportunities, but now you actually want them to commit to achieving the goals or the objectives that these opportunities have. What do you do in this stage? Okay, I'll just tell quickly because we are running out of time. So maybe you can set goals. So goals can be training or capacity building goals. So how much training they need? So they need to be able to do this much of GIS work, or this module they should be able to handle, or this kind of functions they should be able to perform in the GIS system, things like that. Or they can be even work goals. So they should be able to finish this part of the plan preparation. Okay, you can help them identify a reward for themselves. So things like promotion or salary incentives. Maybe you can help them identify the skill upgrade that they are getting if they actually commit to the process of this change. And you can even help them see that they are overcoming the lacunas in their previous work. So these are some things which you can help them identify. What another thing you can do is that you can ask them about the long-term opportunities for both themselves and the organization. So if they have this vision of long-term opportunities or for a future when they can actually assimilate this transition correctly, and they can actually build their skills or opportunities both for themselves and for the company or for the organization, it can help them more committed to actually assimilating this change. So these are some things which as a manager or as a team leader you can do in a case that your organization is going through some transition, and the members of your team are going through these stages of reform or of an organizational reform. So I hope it is very clear to you now what the Scott Jeff transition grid is, and what is the correct sequence of behavioral change that occur during an organizational reform. We come to the last question for today, which is match the following urban reforms under JNNURM with their respective work domain. I've already shared with you the JNNURM document, so you can go into detail with each of these things, but I'll tell you very quickly what all of these mean, and based on that you have an idea of what these reforms and the work domains are referring to, and based on that you can connect each other. So group 1 tells you about the reforms. It is a match the following situation. You have to see in group 1, which is the reforms, which reforms connect to what work domain. The first thing which you have is the city development plan. So city development plan, you might already know, it is a statutory plan which is prepared under a relevant urban development act, within the framework for an approved perspective plan. So, for a city development plan to be formulated, there needs to already be a perspective plan, and perspective plan which will have particular policy frameworks which will guide how the development plan will be formulated. The objective of the development plan is to further detail out the various strategies and physical proposals for these policies in the perspective plan and maybe the regional plan. And depending upon the socio-economic needs and aspirations of the people and available resources and the priorities, the development plan details out the specific strategies and physical proposals. The proposal of a development plan indicates the intention of the local authority. Which you need to pay attention here is it indicates the intention of the local authority regarding the physical, social, and economic development. So the regional plan and perspective plan can be formulated at the state level or by the parastatal bodies, or it can involve several different organizations while formulating the policies which drive the development in a particular state or the cities in that state. But the development of the CDP or the city development plan, it always reflects the intention of the local authority. The approved development plan allows the local authority to implement the development of land and area specified under the plan. So it will always follow the various policies and vision in the perspective plan, but again it will be based on the intention of the local authority. Next, we have user changes. So this also pertains to the JNNURM's mandatory reform that levy of reasonable surcharges should be introduced for usage of different infrastructure services provided by the urban local body. So this can be for services like water supply, solid waste management, licensing, sweeping, cleaning, public area, etc. The objective of this is that user charge would be levied for management and sustenance of these different infrastructure in the long term. Then we have the rationalization of the stamp duty. So stamp duty is a tax that is levied on single property purchases or documents. This can include things like legal documents, checks, receipts, military commissions, marriage licenses, land transactions, etc. So what the JNNURM proposes is that the stamp duty should be rationalized and brought down to no more than 5%. So this is what the rationalization of the stamp duty refers to. Last is the repeal of Urban Land Sealing and Regulation Act. This act was implemented in 1976 and its objective was to alleviate the land crisis in urban markets and reduce the soaring prices of land. This act imposed a ceiling on vacant land in urban agglomeration, preventing the acquisition of land in access by an individual uh, to what is approved by the development authority. The ceiling limit varies in different states and it varies from 500 square kilometer to 2000 square kilometer in different states according to the regulation set by particular state. What JNNURM did is that it repealed this act. It asked for this act to be repealed in each of the states and for it to be functioning in particular states. So these are all the reforms which this question is talking about. I hope from the description of each of the reform you can understand what work domain these reform pertain to and that you can answer questions related. So this it was the last question for today. Today was a long session. Thank you all for keeping patience and going through the whole session. If still you have any doubts, please go ahead and ask.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Anyone else, if you have any doubts? I'm sorry that I missed Anjali and Shweta's answers. I'm very sorry that I missed your answers during the question we were solving. From the next time, I'll try to check the chat box simultaneously also. Today, because of the shortage of time, I just tried to finish it quickly. But from the next time, I'll try to see your answers while text them. Anyone else? Anything remaining? Anything you want to ask? Let's go ahead, or we'll close the session for today.
I guess, ma'am, we can conclude.
Okay, I conclude then. Thank you all for attending, and I'll see you next week again for the fifth session of week 5. Uh, discuss the problems or the material that you've covered in week 5. So it'll be again next Tuesday, 6 to 8. Thank you all for coming, and see you next session.